The NFL just admitted a terrifying truth. Take Jaden Daniels away, and the Commanders become ordinary. Leave him on the field, and the entire NFC East has a problem.
James, ask the question. I got you. What's our next question?
Who is the most important player in the NFC East?
Jaden Daniels, James. I got you, girl. I know. Hey, this is why we're teammates, James. We know what each other want. Jaden Daniels is the most important person in NFC East. Okay. Why? Because when you look at the Commanders, I don't know what I'm getting out of the Commanders. You look at the running back room. You got Bill Krosky-Merritt, young. You got Rachaad White, who was RB2 over there for Tampa for a long time. You have a very thin quarterback room, and you have a very young defense. Now, I know Dan Quinn is a head coach. I know what I'm getting in there. But then you also have an offensive coordinator that has the same amount of coaching experience in the NFL that Jaden Daniels has playing experience in the NFL. But this is what history will tell you. You don't sleep on the Washington Commanders when Jaden Daniels is at the helm. Yeah. We were sleeping on them in 2024, at least I was, and then all of a sudden they're playing in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. If Jaden Daniels is healthy, which all reports out of minicamp and OTAs that he looked like his old self, if not better, do not sleep on the Washington Commanders, because if this guy is on his P's and Q's, he is the most important player in the NFC East because he does move the needle that much, Jaleel.
But because of that, I actually think there's a conversation that might be the elephant in the room that we need to have, which is, I wonder how confident people are that he will stay healthy this season. If we're saying Daniels on the field means they're good, and Daniels not on the field means they're not. And by the way, that's not just how we feel. I have talked to people within the organization who say the exact same thing. Hey, if Jaden's there and he's able to stay healthy, we could be a playoff team this year. That's how they feel over there. Well, then the obvious question is, do we think he's going to stay healthy? So what I want to set this up as is, was last year a revealing season where we found out that there's a lack of durability, or it's the beginning of some stretch where he runs around enough, he takes shots enough at that size with that frame, he's going to get hurt? Or was it just a fluke outlier? I think that's the debate we need to have. Was last year something we'll look back on in several years and say, what a terrible season that was. What a bad luck year where everything that could go wrong health-wise did. Or was it revealing? And where do you come down on that?
For me, I'm such a worrywart that to me it's revealing. It's the thing I was afraid of, and it came to life.
Is it possible for you to remove your pessimism and DC fan worrywartedness?
Yes. Because I think what I'm doing now is I'm putting my fan to the side and I'm going, what was the one thing I was concerned about with Jaden Daniels? It wasn't intellect, processing ability, it wasn't speed, it wasn't touch, it wasn't accuracy, any of the attributes you want in a quarterback. Really thin frame, too many hits. What happened? Really thin frame, too many hits. You get hit enough times, some of them turn bad. Some of them are innocuous that turn bad, some of them are bad that don't turn out so bad. But he was hit too many times over his first 2 years. Year one, it was quote unquote just broken ribs, by the way. Year two, it was the horrible thing in the pocket. Now you've got the getting caught from behind with the hamstring. Then, of course, the gruesome injury against Seattle. And then, of course, the injury against Minnesota. So I forgot one there because there were so many.
Make sure that you have the list in front of you when you do it.
You have to reference them because there's so many injuries. But when you're concerned about something and then that thing happens. In other words, the way insurance works is, hey, you're in a flood zone. And the flood happens, it was like, well, yeah, that's why we charged you more, because you're in a flood zone. That, to me, is the flood zone around the building.
The most recent list for this that I could find was a year ago at the start of the season. But this was most quarterback hits taken per start over the last 20 seasons. And the list is just a bunch of dudes who either didn't get to their potential or missed a lot of time via injury. Uh-huh. So it's Daniel Jones, who's had a torn ACL, hurt multiple years. Yep. I think he had an Achilles. He's had all kinds of different things and hasn't reached his full potential. We've seen him flash, though.
That's right.
Andrew Luck decided to retire. He just couldn't deal with it. He's like, yeah, I got kids, man. I want to walk around and play with them one day. Mm-hmm. Carson Wentz went from 33 touchdowns MVP candidate to getting torn up diving for the goal line and bouncing around as a backup a few years later. Deshaun Watson, completely fallen off.
Yep.
some of that didn't have a whole lot to do with football.
Well, remember, one of the quote-unquote good seasons, he couldn't fly with the team. Deshaun Watson had to take and again, I don't feel sorry for him because of what happened, but your point is he had to take the bus to games like he was John Madden in his prime. I mean, it's unbelievable what he went through with all the hits.
And then the last one on this list is Joe Burrow, who's been to a Super Bowl, but Burrow is
constantly hurt.
One of these guys who's been in and out of the tub his entire career, and it's a major question mark about whether or not he's going to reach his potential and win Super Bowls and become an MVP and be a Hall of Famer like he is on the trajectory to do. So a lot of it is just hit avoidance and not being involved in as many, here's where the analogy, I guess, becomes literal, of those human being-like car crashes. So that's the question for you guys at 800-636-1067 that we'll start with today. I just finished Quarterback. It is a really uplifting show, if you're a Daniels fan, that gives you a lot of hope that he's going to go on a revenge tour and that he is primed to have a monster season because he's an immense talent. But it's also a reminder of just how excruciating and exhausting and terrible last year was, where it was one thing after another in the second season of this player who, coming out, a lot of people felt like might have years like that. And so point blank, was last year revealing and you feel like it's the beginning of something, or was it a fluke outlier that we'll look back on in time as he is winning MVP awards and say that conversation was much ado about nothing? It was just a unfortunate.
The NFL just exposed the biggest truth about the Washington Commanders. Without Jaden Daniels, this team looks completely different. Take him away, and Washington becomes another young rebuilding team searching for answers. But put him on the field? Suddenly, the entire NFC East has a problem. When the question was asked, who was the most important player in the NFC East? The answer wasn't complicated. It was Jaden Daniels. Not because the Commanders have no talent, but because Daniels is the player who changes their entire identity. Last season proved it. Washington went from a team nobody believed in to an NFC championship contender. A rookie quarterback took them further than almost anyone expected. And now the pressure has changed. The question is no longer, can Jaden Daniels become a star? Everybody already knows the answer. The question is, can his body survive long enough to become one? But the reason this conversation is so serious is because Washington's entire future is built around one player. Look at the Commanders' roster. They have a great head coach in Dan Quinn. They have young defensive talent. They have an improving foundation. But there are still major questions. The running back room has potential with players like Bill Krosky-Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, and veteran additions. The defense is still developing. The quarterback room behind Daniels remains extremely thin. And even the offensive system has uncertainty with a coordinator who has nearly the same amount of NFL coaching experience as Daniels has NFL playing experience. That's why people inside Washington believe one thing. If Jaden Daniels stays healthy, this team can compete for the playoffs. But if he misses time, everything changes. Because the Commanders don't just need Daniels to be good, they need him to be available. And that brings us to the uncomfortable question every Washington fan has been trying to avoid. Was last season just bad luck? Or was it a preview of a bigger problem? Because the biggest concern about Jaden Daniels coming out of college was never his talent. Nobody questioned his football IQ. Nobody questioned his accuracy. Nobody questioned his speed. The concern was simple: his frame. Could he survive NFL punishment? And then the worst-case scenario started happening. Broken ribs, a serious pocket injury, a hamstring issue, the brutal hit against Seattle, the injury against Minnesota. The list kept growing. And that's why the debate is so intense. Because when the thing you worry about becomes reality, people start asking difficult questions. Is this just one unlucky season? Or is this the beginning of a dangerous pattern? And history shows why those concerns cannot simply be ignored. Quarterbacks who take massive punishment early in their careers often face the same battle. Look at the examples. Daniel Jones,
a talented quarterback whose career was constantly interrupted by injuries. Andrew Luck, one of the greatest young quarterbacks ever, who walked away because his body couldn't take the punishment anymore. Carson Wentz, a player who once looked like an MVP candidate after throwing 33 touchdowns, before injuries completely changed his career path. And then there's Joe Burrow, a Super Bowl quarterback, an elite talent. But every season comes with questions about whether his body can hold up. That's the fear with Jayden Daniels. Not his ability, not his talent, not his potential. The fear is simple. Can he stay healthy long enough to reach the level everyone believes he can? But despite all the fear, there is another side of this story. A side that believes Jayden Daniels is about to prove everyone wrong. Because if you watch Jayden Daniels, you see something different. You see a quarterback with rare confidence. A player who already changed expectations in Washington. Reports from OTAs and minicamp suggest Daniels looks explosive again. More comfortable. More prepared. More determined. The talent was never the question. The only question has always been durability. So now the NFL waits. Was last season a warning? Or was it simply terrible luck before the beginning of something special? Because if Jayden Daniels stays healthy, the Commanders aren't just another NFC East team. They become one of the most dangerous stories in football. But if the injuries continue, the dream could collapse before it ever reaches its peak. And that's why Jayden Daniels isn't just the most important player in Washington. He might be the most important player in the entire NFC East. So the question is simple. Was 2025 a warning sign? Or the beginning of Jayden Daniels' legendary comeback story? Because the entire NFL is watching.
Yo, mic check 1 to 2, -1, -2. Game over for this video, folks. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to stay in the huddle for more. This is NFL Madness, bringing the heat and signing out.